Welcome everyone to the yoga session for the Adventum Mindfulness Triathlon. I'm so grateful you're here and that I can share today's practice with you. Before we get started, I want to go over what we're going to be doing today. We're going to need some props, so I'll show you what those are, and before we get started you can grab them so you'll be fully ready and prepared to experience today's practice. We are going to do a Yin Yoga class today, and you may or may not have experienced a Yin Yoga class. I had not experienced one before until I had gone to my yoga teacher training, and I was like, this is really different because it's a lot more slower. It's a lot of times when people think yoga, they think they're sweating and it's hot and you're moving from pose to pose. Well, this is a lot more restorative, and I love it because it's a more meditative practice, and you're in the pose for about like 3 to 5 minutes or even longer. So you're not doing as many poses, and it's a beautiful way to really slow down. The practice is meant for you to use the props to relax your body and to be still and to pause, not just physically but mentally and emotionally and spiritually, in all ways. Just kind of slow down and pause. So I hope today's session is restorative for you and refreshing. This type of practice has been very helpful for me in my own journey. This is actually where I do yoga at home. This is my house, and this is where I do my personal practice. It's a really special place. A very sacred space that I wanted to share with you. Yoga came to me during a time of grief. I shared a little bit about my story in the Women's Mental Health Talk, and the yoga and mental health talk. We talk about this too. We talk about how yoga can help, whether it's trauma or processing emotions and feelings and different things that are going on inside. Yoga is a beautiful tool and a great gift to be able to use to help you move through things. In the time of my life when I was grieving, I really didn't have words for what I was experiencing. The pain was very real, but I had no way of articulating what was going on inside of me. And yoga and breath work, mindfulness, meditation, all of those things were huge tools for me to be able to process what was going on, to use my body in a way to give words to what was happening, and it really released a lot of things and helps me move forward. There's things that I still grieve, and I think that's normal and okay, and there's no timeline really. I think anytime we grieve, it shows our depth of love. But sometimes it's hard to grieve. Sometimes we don't know how to grieve, or we're surprised by how we're grieving. Sometimes it's hard to sit with those feelings and to process. So today, if there's a particular pose, there's one that I know of that really helped me. I might touch on that a little bit while we're in the pose to kind of point out, like, hey, this is a great pose if you find yourself in a place of grief and in a place of silence, which sometimes silence is the most appropriate response, and it's really the only one you can have, and that's okay. Sometimes things happen to us in life that take our words away, and being able to be with ourselves and to witness and to show ourselves compassion is a practice. And so I hope today can facilitate wherever you are in life. And again, today with the props, they're going to help, but if you don't like how it feels, or if it doesn't feel right, don't use it. Do whatever feels right for you. At the end of today's practice, I'm actually going to be sharing a poem, a beautiful poem by Mary Oliver. And this poem has to do with our theme for today's practice. Our theme today is autumn. We are filming this in October, and we're in the middle of autumn, and today's practice will be focusing on letting go. Letting go. there's a lot that surrounds letting go. When I think of letting go, I think of surrender. I think of release. I think of autumn, because we're surrounded by trees letting go, and they're demonstrating the beautiful practice of letting go, of showing us that we can't always be full in life, and that when there's something in our life that no longer serves us, or is stale, it's time to let go. It's time to allow these things out of our life. And sometimes it's hard. Sometimes it's, I know I can be very resistant to change, and change can be scary. But sometimes change is necessary, and there's a time, right? There's seasons. And so this is the season that we're in physically in our world. The trees are letting go. So it's really beautiful how when the trees let go, they are returning to this form of emptiness. And sometimes emptiness can feel like a bad thing, but emptiness can be beautiful. It can be a place of creating space. It could be a place for possibility and opportunity and, new life, right? New life begins in an empty womb. It's really beautiful. It's a very dark, empty place when life begins in the womb. And so sometimes it might look dark and empty. Doesn't always look like new life and hope. So the trees also remind us that they're ready to begin these cycles again, and that again, when it's time, when things no longer serve us, and it's time to go inward and to allow these things to fall to the ground. I mean, even the dead leaves are nourishment to the ground, which is kind of crazy to think about. But sometimes letting go is doing you a service in something else. So it's just, I hope today's practice will kind of help you become curious about letting go and what that looks like in your life. It might mean letting go of striving and trying to produce and trying to do and busy, and it might mean letting go of hurt or pain. There's no telling what letting go could look like for you today, but I hope that today's practice can facilitate this process of letting go. And at the very end, I will read this poem by Mary Oliver about letting go. It's beautiful. I think it'll be a really nice way to end the practice. So let me get to the props here. I'm sitting on a block. You're going to want 2 blocks. If you don't have a block, you can actually use a hardback book. You probably want to get a thick one. But yeah, you're going to want 2 blocks. You're going to want a pillow. I just grabbed a pillow that's off of my sofa. It matches, it's like that one. It's a little bit thicker. You could use a pillow that's on your bed, but if you have kind of like a thicker pillow, this is like similar to a bolster that you would see in a studio, but I know that not everybody has yoga props at their home, so I want to be able to give you another idea of what you can use. You'll want a blanket, and if you want a towel, but really you just mainly need these 3 items: the block, the blanket, and the pillow. And as we go throughout the poses, I'll show you how to set up the props to help you feel comfortable in the pose. Again, if it doesn't, don't use them. And I'll show you different variations with and without before you get into the pose. You'll be in the pose for about 3 to 5 minutes. And because you won't be sweating and getting hot, and we won't be moving quickly, you could actually do this session in jeans and a t-shirt. You don't have to wear yoga clothes to do this. I do kind of want to go over a couple other things that will be helpful that I implement in my own personal practice. We'll be using some breathing techniques, and sometimes with breath work, some emotions can arise from it, which is normal and fine. So a couple things that I do if I feel emotions rising is I use my breath. So one tool that you can use it today or really anytime. I use this tool all the time. It's called a physiological sigh. And what it is, it's 2 inhales and an exhale. and usually the exhale is longer than the inhales. So it's a longer inhale, a quick inhale at the top, and a longer exhale, and I'll demonstrate for you. And you don't necessarily have to do it that loud, but I did that so you can hear what it sounds like. But what it does is it equalizes the ratio of your oxygen and CO2 in your body. And if you do about 3 rounds of that, you'll get to a more stable state. So you could do that in between poses. You could do that at the beginning. You could do that while you're driving. You could do that while you're making dinner. You can literally use that tool at any point in time. I like to use it in my practice, especially if my thoughts start wandering. Just taking those very intentional, inhale, quick inhale, exhale, helps me to get back to the present moment. Another thing you can do, if you feel any feelings arise, you can do a defocus gaze or a soft gaze. So what that means, it's kind of like, I can't do it here necessarily perfectly because I'm inside a room, but it's I would look on the other side of the room and have not a focus gaze, but a defocus gaze on some sort of object over there, and just kind of get the peripheral vision in and soften my eyes. And actually softening your vision will help you calm down. So that's another practice you can do, is just kind of easing your eyes, letting go of the strain in your eyes visually. It'll help bring some ease. If you end up wanting to do this outside's perfect. If you are able to get somewhere high and kind of look at the horizon, they call it a horizon gaze. Just imagine, looking at something that's like a horizon far off in the distance. It'll help calm you down. And I will show you the next breathing technique when we start the session. It'll be one that we'll start with when we start our practice. So, okay, I think that's it. So again, 2 blocks, a blanket, and a pillow. And you'll want your yoga mat, and we'll get started. So I'll see you on the mat.